You know, you guys, sometimes you buy a machine and you're just so happy with how beautiful it is and how awesome it is and how well it was kept. And then sometimes you get something like this. You can see it's been bleeding on my trailer quite profusely. Not sure what all this stuff was. I think there was a plow on it at one point. Maybe this thing up here had a cable or a winch running through that loop on the top of that thing going down to pick up a plow. If that's the case, it was pretty ingenious. But if not, yeah, it's pretty crazy. But anyway, has a muffler bolted on underneath the footboard there, which is gonna have to come off. Even though it's really cool, I think the tire wore through the muffler. But yeah, transmission's leaking pretty bad. It's actually leaking out this wheel seal and running down the transmission and dripping. That's why it's coming out the middle. Whoever had it liked to weld a lot, as you can see. Very high quality. I mean, I do some bad welds, but that's pretty bad. Yeah, so it's not pretty. The axle key had fallen out, so when I got it, it wouldn't drive. I was actually pretty upset. I messaged the guy that I bought this from and said, hey, you told me this thing drives, it's not moving anywhere. And he's like, no, it was working. And I'm like, sure. Usually when you double tap that it was working, it means it wasn't working. But upon inspection, the key had fallen out of this thing, so I grabbed one out of the garage and shoved it in there, and lo and behold, it does drive. So he wasn't lying. At least this guy wasn't lying. So, you know, I've had those now and then that say things that absolutely are not true, but this guy, I believe he was telling me the truth. So this had wheel weights on it and it had a pan seat. That's the main reason I bought it, because I wanted the weights in the pan seat. It's really not in too bad shape. It's, you know, I mean, it's had some stuff welded onto it, but my plans with this guy, I'm going to put a 66 nose and hood on it, and I might try to find an old ATV plow or something and retrofit it onto this plow frame. Maybe use some kind of a lever with a cable to lift it up, like put a lever, you know, a lever coming up the side of the tractor that can go backwards and forwards with a cable that runs through that loop down to the plow to make the thing lift and lower. I don't know yet. It really depends. I might just cut all that crap off the front of it and sell it like it is. But at any rate, I am going to try to fix it up, make it look halfway decent. I mean, this is just irritating because he not only welded these pieces onto the battery tray, but he welded them onto the frame. So in order for me to even change the battery tray, I got to grind through all this weld to get this stuff off, or just take a Sawzall and kind of cut diagonally down through these things and take them off. But not my favorite thing to do to unmess messed up stuff like that. But it's got a good motor on it. It's a Tecumseh 8-horse pull start. That'll probably stay on there. You know, it's just a generic replacement one because it's got this little excellent shutoff tab here, and it always slips and you arc the crap out of yourself with the spark plug wire, but runs okay. Carb surges a little bit. Not the worst thing, not the best thing, but it's going to get fixed up and sold because I got too much stuff now. But again, when you find a tractor in this condition with wheel weights and a good pan seat for what I paid for it, I absolutely couldn't turn it down. I'm not going to say what I paid for it on here because it's going to get resold, and every once in a while you get that person that wants to buy something off you and they complain that you're charging a lot more than you paid for it. Well, it doesn't matter what I paid for it because I'm putting time and I'm putting parts into it. It's going to be worth a lot more when I sell it than it is right now. So that's where I'm at with this guy. It is a 68 Suburban 12 or 10. I'm not exactly sure, but it's going to get fixed up and sold. I'm going to do my best to fix the wheel seals on it. This particular axle, somebody had put a bead of weld behind where the hub was so that it wouldn't walk in any further. So that's going to have to get ground down, which I've done before. It's not a big deal. It's just another irritating thing that you have to deal with a tractor you buy from somebody else. So there it is. This stuff looks like grease. It was like a plug of grease that came out when I pulled the plug out of this thing. Ew. It's thick, it's slimy. I mean, it could be like 150 weight straight oil that's in there. I don't know, but It must have some water in it or something, because it's a little brownish in color. And luckily, I already got this axle seal changed, because lo and behold, the wheel and the whole hub pulled right back off of this thing. So make sure I clamp it on really good when I put it on, but that is some nasty crap in there. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to pull this top fill plug out, see if I can get it to drain any faster here. Let's see what it does when I pull the plug out of it, if it changes at all. A little bit, but not much. Definitely had some slime in there. But, I mean, it wasn't milky, so it's probably not water. I don't know. Maybe it's just a really, really, really thick oil or some kind of axle grease. So I'm going to let that drain and see what it comes out like. So this is a tractor a friend dropped off for me to work on. He just picked it up today. It is a 74, I believe, SS16. And I thought that blue tractor was a contender for the worst welding jobs I've ever seen on tractors, but I don't know, this one comes in pretty close second. So let's just take it all in. So piece of rebar welded on the footboard. I'm betting they probably had something else coming off of there. Not there anymore. Piece of 2-inch square tubing welded to another block of steel welded onto the footboard with a long nut on here with a putter that is welded on here to control the plow. I haven't gotten to the plow yet. This piece is welded on here. No idea what it was for. Some kind of, I don't know. This is the worst hack job I've ever seen on a dozer blade. So the only thing I can figure out from any of this mess that's on here, somebody probably had cut the mule drive piece off of this dozer blade to use on some other machine, and instead of fixing it correctly and using like some thick angle iron, welding it back on there so that they could make it removable from the mule drive, instead they welded this plate of steel onto the frame and then welded the plow onto another piece of steel that got welded onto that plate. And they welded these brackets onto that other plate instead of making them bolt, you know, down there on the axle where they're supposed to. Welded that bracket on there. So from my putter going down here, now I have this little bracket, and this little, it looks like it used to be a 3/8 breaker bar with a bolt going through there, going up here, bolt welded on here with a hole drilled in it with a spring, going up to my angle release rod on my plow. So that's pretty bad. We come around to this side. They reinforced the snot out of this, which I'm not opposed to, because these things sometimes can bend if you're not careful, but they reinforced the crap out of this thing. Okay, that's all good. Nice little bungee cord holding my steering together down there. Let's see, let's come around to the back. Besides the forklift seat that's on this thing, a Lee Boy seat. Looks nice and comfy. Let's come around to the back. I've done some pretty bad welding in my time. That's really bad. I mean, that's double stick booger welded 3 times over, angle iron welded onto the hitch plate. And then this thing, which looks like it was part of a Simplicity plow frame, welded onto the hitch plate with some bolts in it, with hinges welded onto it. And the only thing I can figure out is they had some kind of a weight bucket or something going on here. So that's most of the bad stuff. Then they have this bracket welded on between the footboard and the fender. No idea why. The bolts in the fender are loose. Maybe it was rattling and they welded that in there to fix the problem. Then we have this contraption. Again, I've done some pretty bad welding in my time. Not that bad. Well, those that look at the front suspension of my Bel Air may beg to differ, but that's really bad. Welded up there, so that's an elbow welded onto the factory muffler, welded into another short piece of pipe, welded into another piece of pipe that has another piece of pipe jammed on top of it. So this is the muffler, 1 piece of pipe, 2 pieces of pipe, 3 pieces of pipe, 4 pieces of pipe. Yeah. And of course it has a Mac dog on the hood, so we dubbed this one Mac Sears. And under the hood, not too bad actually under the hood. It doesn't look like many people touched it, luckily. There's some odd stuff in there, some loose bolts flying around and some zip ties with, like, you know, carabiner type things under there. I think that was to keep the hood from slamming forward and breaking sometime before it actually slammed forward and broke. So the reason I have this thing to work on, this was for sale on Facebook Marketplace. My buddy wanted to buy it. The guy sent him a video of it running. He kind of struck up a deal on it, and then the guy went outside to start it and put it away, and it wouldn't start again. So he ended up getting it for a really good deal, and he wants me to get it running good, go through, make sure the carburetor's good, adjust the points, or change them if they need to, change the condenser, plug wires. I'm putting that big green fuel tank underneath it because that has an SS12 fuel tank on it, which is not very big. And because there's stuff welded on the hitch plate, he's not going to use the 3-point hitch. So in addition to that blue basket case I'm working on, I have this guy that I'm working on. So any progress on my stuff is probably going to wait for a couple of weeks. But just a short update. The stuff people do to these tractors never ceases to amaze me. Unbelievable. That's it for now. Thanks for watching Cranky Motorsports. You'll see progress on this one and the blue turd. Actually, I'll give you a quick update on that one. So luckily the left side wheel fell off this morning, so I was able to change that wheel seal. And of course this one, not so easy. Again, weld happy. Somebody actually stick welded or cast iron welded or brazed the right hub onto this axle, and there was like this ridge. I knew there was going to be a bump there that I was going to have to grind the welds off, but it looks like they actually welded the keyway onto the axle and the axle onto the hub. So I had to take my cutoff wheel and actually grind through the welds to get the axle free. It started sliding back and forth, and then all of a sudden, ba-bam, it broke. So now I have to put more of my good parts into this thing before I can sell it. But hey, whoever buys this thing, it's going to have 2 new axle seals in it, fresh oil change in the rear end, and 1 newish hub on it. So there you go. I got that muffler off from under the footboard that was here. I'm going to cut this piece off because that doesn't need to be there. And I'm undecided if I'm going to leave this contraption on the front because I picked up an ATV plow that I might be able to make work with this plow frame, and if I can, I might actually try to sell this as a snow machine, which obviously would get me more money for it. So we'll see where that goes. But that's going to do it for right now. Talk to you guys later.